Wreck-It Ralph is one of the many animated films that I did not watch when it came out during my teen years, because clearly there was something wrong with me. As such, it inevitably became one of the many films that I would grace my eyes and ears with years later, as in like a few months ago. Very reminiscent of what happened with the How to Train Your Dragon series, like earlier this year, like January. Yeah. Naturally, after viewing this film, I immediately recognized its awesomeness and actually consider it a Disney classic. Sadly, I had to be patient and wait to see the sequel, Ralph Breaks the Internet, because it was no longer in theaters, but it also wasn't out on DVD yet. But thankfully, it would come to Netflix a short while later. Once again, I fell in love with yet another movie, as this sequel did supreme justice to the original story and characters from the first film, while gifting us a clean and really good transition into its sequel. Managing to not overdo it with the internet memes and puns, which I was seriously afraid would happen, but it didn't. It was great. Speaking of the story, my overall experience of this sequel left me wondering who the film's intended audience was. Children? Or young adults? Specifically young adults who maybe have just graduated high school. Hey y'all, I'm the Geek Apprentice, and today I want to discuss the depth and maturity of the overarching theme of Ralph Breaks the Internet, Disney's sequel to Wreck-It Ralph. Let me just clarify this now. Yes, I know it is intended for children. But if there is any common thread I've found amongst the most beloved of children's films, it's that in addition to them being children's films, they also have adult jokes, as well as themes that can tug at the heartstrings and challenge the minds and thoughts of even the adults. This was something that I found in the How to Train Your Dragon sequels, which I also did not experience till earlier this year, and it is very prevalent in Disney's Ralph Breaks the Internet. First, a bit of history. Wreck-It Ralph was released in late 2012 and tells a really neat story of self-acceptance and acceptance of others through the eyes of a video game bad guy named Ralph who doesn't want to be a bad guy. Eventually, he learns to accept his role in his game, as well as help others to accept his role as well. Along the way, he makes an unlikely friend in the form of the little girl Vanellope von Schweetz from the racing game Sugar Rush. Their friendship has a sort of rocky start, or I guess you could say rocky road start. Oh, that's a double pun, actually, because it's a sweet, but it's also road racing. Sorry. But by the end, they are truly best friends. Ralph Breaks the Internet released in late 2018, almost exactly 6 years after the first film, and follows the continuing best friendship of Ralph and Vanellope years after when they first met. We see the story kick off as Vanellope expresses her distaste for the mundane, cycling lifestyle that she's sunk into. Ralph, after getting over initially being upset by this comment as he doesn't mind the recycled lifestyle, helps bring spontaneity, but it leads to the physical game of Sugar Rush breaking and ultimately being shut down, rendering the characters of Sugar Rush homeless. Which of course leads to a side story that's really funny. Note that prior to all of this happening, Vanellope became intrigued by this new game that was plugged into their main central hub called Wi-Fi, or the internet. Ralph, wanting to fix Vanellope's game, brings her into the internet world so that they can find the game part needed and have it sent to the arcade. Craziness and adventures ensue in this wonderfully thought out adaptation of the internet world, where there are tons of internet puns, and I love it. However, during all of this, Vanellope discovers a different type of racing game in the internet world. It's darker, it's grungy, it's always changing. It's what she's been dreaming of. This leads to a huge rift in her friendship with Ralph, as he does not want her leaving the arcade to stay in the internet world. Thankfully, in the end, Ralph realizes that their best friendship can survive even if their dreams are very different. They both get what they want and more. Vanellope gets her ever-changing, fast-paced new video game. Ralph gets his usual day-to-day lifestyle, but with some updates to keep him moving, happy, and making new friends. And both continue to communicate and foster their friendship via long distance. So what are the overall themes of this sequel? The first is friendship troubles. Even the closest of friendships can have issues, but in the end, if both parties are willing and listening, they can make it work and become even stronger than they were before. And also that it's okay to have other friends. The other main theme, simply put, is saying goodbye. Sometimes moving forward in life means saying goodbye to what you're used to, possibly even your best friend. Though this time around it's not as permanent of a separation as it was in How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World. Ooh, I want to cry just thinking about it. You can click the card and skip to the end to hear my raw, emotional, honest evaluation of that film and how much it touched me. Oh my gosh. The first theme about friendship troubles is a decently common one amongst children's films, although I would say that this film does it better than most. That second one though? Dang, I'm not sure a lot of younger kids would relate to that unless they have a close friend that maybe moves away. Not that they need to get that theme at a young age because there are other things for them to grab onto. However, this isn't just a saying goodbye theme. It's more than that. This isn't saying goodbye because your hands are tied and you have to. No, this is saying goodbye because you and your friends are changing and you have to make the choice to leave each other to become the best version of yourselves. That's not just deep, that's difficult and really real. So back to my initial question at the beginning of the video. Who is the intended audience? The average viewer for each film, not including the parents, was probably roughly 11 years old, right? Well, those who were 11 in the first film would have been 17 during the second film's release, probably in their senior year of high school. Now, while this second theme could apply to graduating seniors from college, I think it's far more prevalent for graduating high schoolers, as that may be the first time for many where they're having to say goodbye to the most familiar thing they have, and that is their dearest friends. You've been together for so long, and now one of you wants to become a lawyer and moves across the country, maybe to Harvard or something. Another wants to be an actor and decides to go to California or New York. And still maybe another says, I'm a homebody and I'm staying here and gonna go to a local college. Suddenly, your tight-knit friend group has spread hundreds of miles apart, and that's not as easy to maintain. You're still technically a teenager who has all of these changing hormones, who's been asked to make life decisions about your future, and as if that wasn't hard enough, now you're having to say goodbye to your closest friends? I think sometimes we underestimate or flat out forget how difficult that is. Moreover, as I mentioned before, how difficult it is to maintain those friendships. Sometimes you don't. And that's okay. It's not like the memories are now erased, but it also doesn't make that initial parting any easier. And once you've made some new friendships, that can put a strain on the old ties as well. However, the movie addresses this as well, as we see both Vanellope and Ralph make new, strong, wonderful friendships while still maintaining their core best friendship with each other. So Ralph Breaks the Internet to me seems as though it was subtly aimed for that original 11-year-old audience who, at the time of this movie's release, would be 17, graduating high school, and possibly going through the same hardships that Vanellope and Ralph are. As if the movie is telling them, hey, you and your best friend might have different dreams, but that's okay. You can still follow your own individual dreams, make new friends, and maintain your friendship with one another. It will be harder, and you'll both have to put in more effort, but it can work. And what I think is even more beautiful is how they support each other and how you see Ralph's excitement for Vanellope as she tries these new things. There's just something infinitely uplifting about your best friend being excited for the new adventures you're having in life. And the reverse is true too. Obviously, you have a strong friendship kind of love for this person and you want to see them succeed and try new things, so naturally you would support them and cheer them on, as hard as it may be at times because you're so far away from each other. But it makes those moments where you are together all the more sweet. No pun intended. Maybe I'm rambling at this point, but I think that this film has some intense but amazing themes on friendship for young adults as they venture forth into their unknown future. I'm not saying the messages in this film just go over kids' heads. What I am saying is how awesome it is that the writers put so much effort into making this film not just pleasing for the new young kids, and not even just pleasing for the adults with subtle adult jokes, but also for its original 11-year-old audience who grew up waiting for this spectacular sequel. How old were you when the original film came out? I believe I was 17. Did seeing this sequel years later, or pretty close together if you're me, hit you in the feels in any way? Let me know in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed your time here, consider subscribing and looking up my Instagram and Twitch. It's a really fun time on Twitch because I'm terrible at video games, but I love them, so do consider that. But that is all for today. Thank you for watching.